Welcome to Dominant Mets Nation. Today we have our post MLB trade show. So today we will be grading our New York Mets moves post MLB trade deadline. So we're going to go over every single move the Mets have made leading up until the MLB trade deadline. So we're going to do this together, and by the end of this, we will know, and it's an exercise, and we will find out what grade the Mets got. And I'll tell you this. Let me give you my instant reaction to the trade deadline. And actually, before we do that, if you could like and subscribe, if you're New York Mets fans, like, subscribe, join the family. I love this community. I think, honestly, we have the best, most knowledgeable community, one of the top ones out there. So I really would love you to join. So like and subscribe. The likes really, really help out the channel. So I appreciate that in advance. Okay. So my instant reaction when the deadline ended, so shortly after 6, we're waiting to see which trades trickle in. A few minor trade details happen, but at the end of the day, that big fish didn't come. We didn't get Jack Flaherty. We didn't get a Scooble. We didn't even get a Blake Snell. Blake Snell didn't even get moved. Scooble didn't get moved. Jake Flaherty did get moved. There were a lot of big moves that did happen. Tanner Scott went to the Padres. Padres unloaded their farm system. And, that's the thing. If you're a Padres fan, you got to feel good. Despite not getting to the promised land, your GM, your organization makes things exciting. But we know David Stearns and Steve Cohen, the ultimate goal is to not only win, but to build a sustainable winner for now and in the future. So our goal this whole year was to be a playoff team. And that's essentially where we stand right now. We are a playoff team. Last month, we needed bullpen. Everybody was screaming, Mendoza's screwing up the bullpen. He's not letting the starters go too far. The bullpen stinks. You should have let that guy Severino go into the 8th inning, 7th inning. It was a lot of complaints. And, I don't blame the complaints because the bottom line, we had bullpen hell last year. Our bullpen stunk. No matter, there were many moves to be made. You could have contradicted a lot of moves that Mendoza made, but at the end of the day, we did not really have the ammunition in there. We didn't have a good bullpen. All right. So what did David Stearns do? So David Stearns' first move, and this occurred a while back, his first move was to acquire Mr. Phil Maton. So we essentially acquired Mr. Phil Maton for cash, right? So when I analyze these trades, I'm going to be looking at a couple factors. I'm not just going to give, A minus, B plus, C plus, because I want to tell you the why. Why am I going to give it a grade? So I'm going to grade each player, and then we're going to grade everything as a whole. So the whole trade deadline. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at factors. So we're going to look at this handy dandy board. So we're going back to school in a way. So let me get this. Look at this right in front of the camera. Let's see if we can do this where you can see it and I don't get the reflection of the screen. Okay, so the factors. We have Phil Maton right here, and we're going to look at factors. And I'm sorry if this reminds you of school. The 3 factors are value, cost, and production. Now, the guys that we just acquired yesterday, they didn't have any chance to produce yet, but we have a couple guys who have had their stints on the Mets. So value. So Phil Maton coming from the Rays, how was he doing? What was the value that we acquired? So Phil at the time when he was with the Tampa Bay Rays, this year he was 1-2 in 40 games, and he had a 4.58 ERA. So his value coming in wasn't the highest. He was only getting 7.6 strikeouts per 9. His walk ratio was close to 5. He wasn't really that good. He wasn't that great. His value was a C minus actually. The cost, we gave up cash. So we gave up basically nothing. When you don't give up any players, I consider that no cost. So on the cost grade, we got an A plus. Now production, thus far, we're able to evaluate Phil because he's with the Mets. He's been with the Mets quite a few times. He's pitched in 7 games already, and throughout those 7 games, he's been lights out. He's got a 1.5 ERA. His strikeout per 9 went up to 10.5. So his production thus far is extremely good. So if you go over to the overall grade right here, it's a B plus. It's a B plus. Now, if you ask me, why isn't it an A? Why isn't it an A plus? We gave up nothing and he's producing at a high level. Well, that's the other component, time. Over time, if the production continues to be at a high level, the grade will go up. So if we have Maton and he pitches at this high level throughout the course of the rest of the season, that'll be bumped up to an A. That will be bumped up to an A. But thus far, we've already got A production and we paid nothing for him. So it's already a B plus. So we start off very, very highly, very strong first move. We gave up nothing and we have a very respectable bullpen piece. So that's where we have our first grade, a B plus for Phil Maton. So now we'll look at our second grade and move. Okay, so for the next move for David Stearns, we look to the Seattle Mariners. And this came as a bit of a surprise because this guy actually was a guy that wasn't expected to be traded. There were a lot of prognosticators last month that came out with a list, and they said the most 50 likeliest guys to be traded. They looked at teams that weren't competitive or teams that looked like they were going to be dropping out of the playoff race. And this wasn't a guy, and he wasn't on a team that looked like they were going to be sellers. But David Stearns was able to have conversations, work those conversations along, and acquired a guy who just a year and a half ago had one of the most dominating seasons in a very long time. And he won a championship, and he's playoff tested, and that guy is Mr. Ryan Stanek. So let's look at the grades real quick on Mr. Ryan Stanek. Again, we're going to look at those factors, and those factors being value. So value of Ryan Stanek. How was he doing with the Mariners at the time where we acquired him? So at the time that we acquired Ryan Stanek, I'm telling you, he wasn't lighting things up. He was actually not really kind of producing. He had a couple bad outings in a row. His total ERA or his total performance with Seattle, he was 6-3 with a 4.38 ERA. His, he pitched in, let's see here, he pitched in 46 games. His strikeout per 9 was still pretty decent. It was 10.2. His whip was 1.33, which is, not the best. But it's a guy who has, I would say his value, even though his value this year isn't the highest, and that's why we give it a C, you got a guy and you acquired a guy that is postseason tested, he's battle tested, and in the past and a very recent past, he was very talented. He's a guy who could throw near 100 miles per hour, so he's a guy with potential. We don't really have that valued in here. That's going to be more or less valued in future production. All right, so cost. What did we give up? We gave up Ryland Thomas, and he's basically a top 30 potential fourth outfielder. It's not really anything too crazy. So, I gave that grade, as you see here, cost B plus. I don't think we really gave up anything. A top 30. We have a dime a dozen of those in the farm system. So production. Thus far, he's only had a handful of games, but he hasn't really done well in his first couple appearances. But I don't really give that too much weight. And production is not going to really be weighted well because we know, or weighted highly, because we know that these guys haven't really had that much time to play with the Mets. So the overall grade, if you could see it here, I apologize. I'm not really a technology guy, so we go old school. So we got B minus right here for total grade, B minus with a potential. This is where we start, folks. We start at a B minus, right? Because we know really these grades evolve. Over time, you look at NFL draft, NBA draft, they grade all these acquisition, but then a number one pick could it start off as an A plus, but over time it could end up as being one of the biggest busts in MLB NBA history. So as we all know grades shift. So Ryan Stanek goes out there and he dominates. That B minus trade grade goes up to an A. Or conversely, if he stinks, then or if the package we gave up, if the prospect we gives up, he's dominant, Ryan Stanek stinks, this grade goes down to a D or an F. So as we know, we kind of amuse ourselves by these trades and grades and stuff like that, but it's just really more or less for fodder right now. But for the time being, he's a B minus. So first two grades, we got Phil Maton. He got a B plus, and we got a B minus. So we're staying in the B level. Not bad, not bad. So let's move on. Okay, so we get to our next trade, and quite honestly, this was my favorite trade. This was my favorite trade. And this was when we acquired Jesse Winker the other day. And if you want to look, I had a video. Literally, I did a video an hour and a half before the trade went through. And I was on the fence about, do we need an extra bat? Do we? But then when I actually looked at things going forward, I looked at our current situation. I looked at like the last couple games, and I put everything together and I wanted to look at things as realistic as possible. And I'm like, yeah, we need an extra bat, but we need the right guy. We need the right guy, right? So, I mean, and we also needed to respect the clubhouse, a guy who would elevate the clubhouse, elevate the lineup, a guy with a good approach, a guy who was a good fit. And, I came up with this guy, and you go back, check it out. I evaluated Michael Conforto, but this guy, Jesse Winker, I felt had it when it came to the New York Mets. So let's look at the Jesse Winker trade. And by the way, folks, I'm just looking at trades. I'm not looking at like any waiver claims or waiver pickups. So if you're seeing like Alex Young and he's not on here, I apologize. I love that move as well, but I didn't evaluate it. All right, so Jesse Winker, we give Jesse Winker value-wise B plus because he was having a pretty respectable year. I like his year. His cost B minus. Tyler Stewart, he was ranked the I think he was ranked the 23rd best Mets prospect. So he wasn't in the top 20 last year. He had a phenomenal ERA. Great prospect last year. Probably has more potential to slot in for like at number 4 in a rotation. Maybe if everything goes right, maybe a number 3. His fastball was 91 to 94 miles per hour, so he didn't really have lights out stuff. But the cost, in my opinion, to get a guy like that could be so valuable, I felt that the cost wasn't that much at all. So production value doesn't have much weight. He only played in a couple games, but you could see it right off the bat what he has done to this lineup. I mean, the other day, 15-2 against the Minnesota Twins, we had some of the best innings that we've had in quite some time. That game was like a little league game. I was scoring it. My wife's next to me, and she, and I'm writing. I have my box score, and I'm like, damn, I have no more room. Again, we batted around the 4th and the 6th inning. So I mean, you could just see how disciplined the lineup is, how many more options we have. He's a lefty, and this is where I have to give another factor. Like, it's a special factor. So I'm going to be grading Jesse Winker a bit different. I'm throwing in fit. Another component or factor that I look at to grade this trade. And the fit on this team is A plus plus plus. Kind of like if you're a Knicks fan and we acquired OG Anunoby from the Raptors, we gave up two pretty good pieces in Barrett and Emmanuel quickly. But the thing is, it was just such a good fit for this team. Just like Jesse Winker is such a good fit for this lineup, this clubhouse, this team. I mean, there are a bunch of teams that just need that special guy that just elevate things. You look at years ago with the Yankees, Paul O'Neill, a guy like that, even like a Curtis Granderson in 2015 with us, guys that just elevate the lineup, a guy, I believe he can put up similar numbers to a guy like this. A guy, and I mentioned this the other day, Justin Turner. Justin Turner, when he went to the Dodgers years ago, he was around late 20s, early 30s. Jesse Winker could have a similar offensive impact with that. He's a high on base guy. They always talk about his chase rate. The thing I raved about before us even getting him, how his chase rate was, just phenomenally disciplined guy. So this is a trade I really, really, really like. Now, it's only for a couple extra months, but I think that we're gonna experience and almost we didn't acquire that Cespedes name, but you're gonna see, I believe, that Cespedes type of impact on the lineup. Trust me. All right, so that we give an A. So we're starting off very, very good for David Stearns. So let's look at our next trade. All right, so please remember to hit the like and subscribe button. And this next trade, I gotta say, when I initially heard about it, I was really kind of like down and kind of I was excited for yesterday, and I kind of really had to like really stop and really analyze this move. And at first when I heard it, I was, like I said, I wasn't really happy about it. As time went on, I kind of started to think more and more about it. Of course, I'm talking about us trading for Mr. Paul Blackburn. Now, I'm not really sure how many of us were really familiar with Paul Blackburn. I've heard of him, but I've never really thought highly of him. He wasn't really, a guy that I thought more of a fourth or a five starter. So he wasn't really a guy that I'm like, oh, I hope we acquire Paul Blackburn. Right now, Paul, he's age 30. He's going to be 31 in a few months. He's 6'1". This year, he has in 9 games, he's 4-2 with a 4.41 ERA. His strikeout per nine is 6.7 per nine. His WHIP is 1.15, which actually is not that bad. Really not that bad. Now, his career ERA is 4.83. So, I mean, really, that's really a career number 5 starter. Really, I want to look at his baseball savant number because his WHIP really kind of isn't as high as I thought it would be. So I want to check that out. But so what I did was, and actually, you know what? First, let me tell you some of my rationale that made me feel a little better. So I wanted to get like that upper echelon type of ace, since I'm thinking, oh, Kodai Senga is not, he's not going to be back. If we want to make a sustainable playoff run, we're going to need that top of the line rotation. Plus, it gives Luis Severino and Sean Manaea, it pushes them down in the rotation. So it makes our overall pitching rotation that much stronger. So what made me feel better? It made me feel better that although Kodai Senga is injured, this acquisition tells me that David Stearns has a belief that Kodai Senga will be back by the end of the season and will be there for the postseason. Because we know right now we're already 7 games over 500. We've done it thus far without Kodai. We've made up so much ground since the end of May without Kodai. So I believe we can get to the promised land, meaning the playoffs, without Kodai Senga. But in order to win a World Series, you need that ace. You need that top of the line rotation. By us not going out there and getting one, I firmly feel that we believe that Kodai Senga will be back before the end of the season. Now, I did a little research. This is the one injury I haven't had. Luckily, I haven't had a high calf strain. They put on the timetable that it's supposed to be 4 to 8 weeks recovery time. I'm not sure if that includes him getting on the mound, getting ramped up. That takes a long time as well. But I looked up in general, how long does it take for an athlete to get back from a high calf strain? And they said on average, it's 3 to 6 weeks. Now, the Mets timetable is 4 to 8 weeks. So I'm not sure if they've, said, all right, let's give this guy a little extra time. but we know that he'll be back within 6 weeks. I mean, 6 weeks is middle to September. So if they're circling the middle of September, but they're giving us a 4 to 8 week timetable, I'm like, that's not that bad. That's not that bad. We just have to hold down the fort. And if Paul Blackburn is that guy that gives us that extra flexibility, that causes us to, put a Tyler McGill, a David Peterson, mix and match. You're able to leave Jose Budo in the bullpen. I love that. I love that. I've already said how important it is to keep him as a long reliever. If Paul Blackburn is a guy that eats up extra innings, gives us that flexibility, gives us an extra arm, I don't feel that bad about this deal. It's just that when I initially thought about it, I'm like, okay, is he that much better than Tyler McGill? Is he that much better than potentially, David Peterson, a guy of that ilk? And that's what I was trying to get. I was trying to get a guy who had a clear-cut advantage over, those guys. Because we saw against the Atlanta Braves that those two guys seem to be our weakness. So that's why I was initially upset, but then that's how I rationalized. So value-wise, we got a guy I just spoke about. He has a career earned average of almost 5. C minus, that in terms of the player we're getting back is probably pretty generous. So cost I put B. All right. So cost I put B. We gave up Cade Morris. Cade Morris was a guy, I believe he was selected last year in the third round. So thus far, he's pitched in, I believe he had 18 appearances, and his career ERA is 3.51. So, 3.51, not bad. We just drafted him last year in the third round. He was, I believe he was the 26th ranked prospect. But a lot of times when those guys are just drafted, you got to give them time to go up our top 20, our top 10. So I'm a little, I think the cost was a bit high. I know starting pitchers, getting any relief pitches or any type of starting pitches, the cost was high. That's why my other grades was so great. That's why getting Phil Maton for cash. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy. So, Cade Morris, I mean, you never know. You never know. I guess they didn't really believe in his stuff. They're expert, but like I would have liked to keep since we need pitching. Maybe he turns out to be a bullpen piece. Maybe he turns out to be a number 4. I mean, both of the guys we gave up, Tyler Stewart and Cade Morris, those are 2 pitchers in our top 25 that, might have had some value, but I'm very, very comfortable with the other trade because we got such a good impact piece. I'm not so sure how impactful Paul Blackburn would be, but like I said, if he does those things that I spoke about, giving us flexibility, leaving Jose Budo, letting him be in the bullpen, eating up some extra innings, and then taking us to where we hand off the ball to Kodai Senga in a couple weeks. That just may be all what the trade was for. So that was probably like my worst trade. That was my worst trade. I mean, C plus, I probably gave a generous grade to that as well. So let's move on to our next trade. And at the end of this video, again, thank you for sticking with me. Like and subscribe. And I'm going to give you a total grade as well. Okay, our next move to me was a little bit of a mystery. A little bit of a mystery in certain respects because I'm like, I was asking myself questions like, who is this guy and why would we even invest in making a trade for this guy? But this is where David Stearns, his advanced scouting, and him in terms of analytical approach and the way he approaches prospects, this is what makes him unique. This is what makes him different. So we're talking about the acquisition of Mr. Tyler Zuber from the Rays. Now, this is a guy apparently that Stearns has wanted for the last couple months. He's been asking the Rays, do they want to trade him? Do they want to trade him? Now, Tyler Zuber, if you look at him in the last couple years, he's only made 2 starts with the Rays in the last couple years. That was in 2024. Other than that, he's been a career, minor leaguer. And, so from looking at that, you're kind of like, wondering like and puzzled. Like, why would you want to invest in this guy? What does David Stearns see? So apparently, his last couple of minor league starts or his most recent minor league starts, he's been a lot better. He's been a lot better. So the thought process is that David Stearns and his scouts has seen something in Tyler Zuber, meaning that he has turned the corner. We don't know what it is, but if they see value, just like, Alex Young, the other guy that we acquired this year in a waiver pickup, his minor league statistics too were great this year. Were great, but this is a trade we made, so we had to give somebody up. So the value I'm saying right now, since I only have 2 major league starts to go off, appearances, there's really not much there. So in terms of value wise, since he's really mostly a career minor leaguer, I put value generously at C plus. Cost, I put C minus because cost is also indicative of what we're paying for, right? So if you pay even a low price for something that's valued even lower or something with no value, that means you could be overpaying. Your cost could be higher. So we gave up Paul Gervasi, right? Cole Gervasi is a 24-year-old pitcher. He's in our minor leagues. His numbers, if you look at his numbers in Binghamton, they're not that bad. He was 3-2 with he was 3-2 with a 3.25 ERA. His WHIP was 1.19. His strikeouts per 9 was extremely high. Like his strikeouts per 9, if you look at Paul Gervasi is 15. His career strikeouts per 9 in 3 innings is 14.8. So this guy, this is a guy who gets people out in terms of striking them out. So I mean, Tyler Zuber, I'm still a bit kind of puzzled with, but this is where I gotta have confidence in David Stearns. But right now, until I see more, until I know more, it's hard to grade this trade, but I got to give it a generous, I'm a Mets fan, so probably other people would be like, it's a D, just because, the fit wise, it's a B too, because obviously we need relief help, but the best I could give it is a C plus for the Tyler Zuber trade. All right, so this is our last trade, and this actually was my second favorite trade after the Winker trade, and possibly could be my favorite trade. This was a very good trade, and I love this trade. I really do. The more and more I looked into it, the more and more I loved it. So this trade is when we traded for Miami Marlins pitcher Huascar Brazoban. So Brazoban, I really like. I do. I really like. He's pitched in 20 games this year, and he's looked very good this year. Extremely good this year in 20 games. He was 1-2 with a 2.93 ERA. His strikeouts per 9 is 10.0. His what else did I want to say? His WHIP was 1.01. So this year he has been phenomenal. And last year he was 5-2 with a 4.14 ERA, struck out 10.0 per 9. But if you look at his baseball savant, it will just blow you out of the water. Last year he had some hard luck, but almost every single part of every single stat on Baseball Savant is dark red. This guy is electric, in my opinion. He throws the ball 96, 97 miles per hour. He's got a 96 mile per hour sinker. He's got a 90 mile per hour changeup, which I feel if there's one thing he needs to maybe change, is that his change of pace is only 5 or 6 miles per hour. So that maybe he can kind of tweak. He's got an 88 mile per hour cutter, which coincidentally is slower than his changeup. But this guy's another hard thrower. He's another hard thrower. When batters, they don't hit the ball hard off of him. Average exit velocity is only 82. His chase rate is high. His whiff rate is high. His K rate is high. His barrel percentage rate is high. His hard hit rate is high. His ground ball rate is high. I mean, this guy is phenomenal. Last year, his ground ball rate with his sinker is in the 86th percentile. This is, I feel, an excellent guy. There's only one thing that holds him back. One thing. And even last year, when his ERA was in the 4s, his expected ERA was 3.5. His expected batting average against, even last year when he didn't have that great outcome, it was 2.13, and that's in the 84th percentile. His average exit velocity last year, when I guess his ERA wasn't the lowest, it was in the 97th percentile. And like I was about to say, the only thing holding this damn guy back from being the best relief pitcher in baseball is walks. His walks is in the 8th percentile. 8th. So that's the only thing kind of holding him back. If he somehow finds a way to fix that, and that's why you see here, folks, I gave value A, cost A. Cost, I believe we gave a Wilfredo Lara. He's a 20-year-old third baseman. So, I mean, he wasn't highly sorted after or touted. His numbers are in April, it's just pretty decent. Decent. Last year in 2023, 14 home runs, 49 RBIs, batted 260. So, I mean, you got to give up something to get something, but I felt that we didn't give up anything close to the terms of value we got back. So I really like that move, especially when relief pitchers, Tanner Scott, the price that the Padres paid and that other people paid, the Phillies, what they paid for Estevez. I mean, great stuff. So that's what I give it. I give an A. So let's get to the overall grade. Overall grade, what does David Stearns get? Okay, folks. So now we get to the final grade. And this is something that we're going to learn and that we've already seen. David Stearns is a guy who makes moves. He will continue to make moves and make moves and make moves. Now, I said in the beginning of this year that team that we started with was just a starting point. We would continue to improve and make that team better. Now, and this is what we've done. By the end of June, we saw that our offense has really taken an upswing. And by that point, it was evaluation time. What did we need to get to the next level? So we knew we needed to get bullpen help. And that's what we done. We made 6 trades, but we've also made other acquisition moves. We've made some waiver claim. So we've made a bevy of moves to get our roster better. And I felt it was a targeted approach by David Stearns this MLB trade deadline. And as you can see, the bullpen got significant help. We got an extra starter, and we got that extra bat, an extra good bat. So let's look at the final grade. The final grade. So let's continue to look at what we've been looking at. So we have, we'll look at the players. So we'll look at the value. So Maton got a B plus, Stanek B minus, Winker's an A grade, Blackburn is a C plus, Zuber is a C plus, Brazoban is an A as well. So the total grade on value that we acquired is B. So we got a B on the value of players that we traded for. Cost. Okay, in cost. We gave up no top 20 players from our organization. No players in our top 20 were traded. Great. Okay, another fact. Baseball America, what they do is they rank the top prospects traded. So all the prospects that were traded, they rank them. None of the prospects that we were traded were ranked in their top 30 of traded prospects. So even Baseball America did not rank those prospects too highly. So in terms of the cost, it wasn't too high. So we get a B plus in prospects that we gave up. So total grade, to be as fair as possible, I felt we should have got anywhere in between a B and a B plus. Now, yeah, I if you grade this on a numerical term, it would be around an 85. So it would be around an 85. So that's a starting point. That total grade of around a B, B plus, it could go down, it can go up. But for first trade deadline, it's not so bad. And I feel that we've put ourselves in a really good position with already a good team to make a great playoff run. And like I said, I feel that the Blackburn trade, which was one of our lowest trade, has potential because Senga could be coming back. So it's just more or less a bridge. So, I know this took a little longer. If you could like and subscribe, I'd really, really appreciate it. I will speak to you soon, but total grade B, B plus, David Stearns. All right. Thank you all for watching and have yourself a great day.